One, two, three, four.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Not Just Cricket. I am your host, Ahmed Khwaja, and joining me, as always, is former Ireland Test wicketkeeper Niall O'Brien discussing the PSL 6. How are you doing, Niall?
I'm doing very well this morning. I'm feeling very chipper, very happy with myself this morning.
Okay, I need to know one thing. I need you to send me next week's lottery numbers because your predictions are absolutely spot on in the PSL 6. You said that Zalmi were going to nail Karachi Kings, and you also said Multan Sultans were going to the final, and you're 2 of 2.
Yeah, 2 from 2. We'll call it beginner's luck or look at the Irish. I just had a feeling yesterday. We spoke at length about the fixtures. Both games were very hard to call, really. But yeah, glad I got off to a good start.
Well, let's talk about the very first game then. Islamabad United taking on Multan Sultans. Of course, Multan won the toss in extremely tough conditions for cricket, probably around 45 degrees in Abu Dhabi. And instantly were put under pressure. Rizwan falling for a duck, and Riley Russo as well, falling immediately to Shadab Khan, who got a twin strike in his very first over. But that man, Sohaib Maqsood, is in irresistible form.
Yeah, he is. He's playing nicely, and he's playing very simple. He's keeping it very simple. He's a clean striker of the ball. But just going back to the start, winning the toss and batting, I thought that was a massive toss to win. I spoke to some of my colleagues and friends in Abu Dhabi who are working on the tournament, and they said it's going to be a big toss because of the heat, because of the pitch and conditions as they are in Abu Dhabi. The toss in the first game, as well as the second game, absolutely crucial. So I thought that was a big swing in momentum before ball was bowled for Multan. They were in trouble early. Obviously, I backed Rizwan to get some runs. He didn't score yesterday, but I thought they played superbly well. They played a really accomplished game of cricket, Multan.
Sohaib Maqsood getting yet another 50 in the PSL, got able support from Johnson Charles and Khushdil Shah with some lusty hitting at the end. 29 runs off the penultimate over that really propelled their target. But on the bowling side, though, Islamabad losing early wickets once again. Colin Munro, the Kiwi, unbelievable shot to play against Sohail Tanveer. And it was a bit of a retro PSL with Sohail Tanveer bringing back the good old days with an outstanding performance with the ball.
Yeah, Tanveer, he's such a great bowler. He hasn't been in the wickets this year, we know that, but he has the experience. When we spoke yesterday, I kept using the word experience. When it comes to crunch games and knockout games, you're looking for your players who've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. And Tanveer stood up. It was an interesting shot from Munro. It is a shot he tries to play. He does hustle down the wicket quite often. But when you're playing Tanveer, who's got that awkward action, and he's a little bit difficult to pick up line and length earlier innings, sometimes against Sohail Tanveer, from experience, you're better sitting and watching, even for 2 or 3 balls, just to try and get used to conditions. But Munro, well, he wanted to put his authority on proceedings, and it was to his downfall. That was a massive wicket. But, it was a good score. Multan getting 180 for 5. That was a really good score. And Johnson Charles, as you quite rightly mentioned, just the icing on the cake with that 41 from 21. Came in, obviously, as a replacement player in the replacement draft, and that was a good pickup by Multan. I think he did a good job just getting that score above par. I think par was about 165, 170, and that 180 for 5 was a really good performance. And Islamabad, they would have been happy enough at the halfway mark. I think they would have thought, right, 181 to win. It's not that unattainable. We've scored bigger in the previous games. We've got players in form. Players sat out, of course. Don't forget, Khawaja and Munro had a rest previous game, which I said yesterday. I wasn't sure that was a great thing. As a batsman, when you're in form, you like to keep batting. And, for Multan, early wickets. That's always the key. Get early wickets. If you get 3 wickets in the power play, you generally win a high percentage of games. And Multan were really spot on with the new ball.
Spot on with the new ball, and that really brings Imran Tahir into the game. And then, of course, he got the big man, Asif Ali, absolutely nowhere, clearly stumped. And after that, it was pretty much though Usman Khwaja played an outstanding innings, kept them in the game, and after the strategic timeout, took some momentum away from Multan Sultans, but they did hold their nerve and eventually bowled them out for 149. So Multan Sultans storming into the final. I would like to ask you one thing. You may have seen they've been putting those boards on those chairs, number 1, 2, 4, 9, and they're telling us that they are their bowling plans and fielding plans. Is that for real, or are they just doing some psychology with Islamabad and all of us viewers and commentators?
There's probably, I would say it's a bit of both, but knowing Andy Flower and his team from the analyst side, he works closely with the England analysts. And we've seen England do it in the recent past, take England back to the series in South Africa, and the analysts with the boards up, displaying messages or plans to Owen Morgan. Not that Owen Morgan needs much help; he's the best captain in the world, but it just shows where the game is going, doesn't it?
Right then, Multan Sultan storming into the final. And now let's talk about the second game then. Peshawar Zalmi taking on Karachi Kings. Karachi Kings batting first. That man, Babar Azam, once again, even though he's hobbled, even though he's not 100% fit, even though he didn't feel the conditions, he wasn't in a good rhythm, yet another 50 in another big game, 500 plus runs in the PSL. That man is absolutely incredible, and the linchpin for the Kings.
Yeah, the linchpin, and he plays that role at the top nicely. He's aggressive, but he's not overly reckless. You know pretty much when he walks out the bat, when he takes guard before ball's face, you pretty much know what you're going to get. You're going to get an accomplished, tactically sound, technically very, very efficient batsman who will score at a good rate without ever really taking the game away from the opposition. Where Babar Azam needs help is around him. He needs people who can strike at 150, 160, 170. So he can go about his business and the pressure doesn't get too much on top of his shoulders. We did say that yesterday. My fear for Karachi was over-reliance on Babar. And again, yesterday, he played superbly well, but he wasn't bailed out by his partners.
But your boy, Martin Guptill, another no-show, only 69 runs made at the PSL. What have you got to say for yourself, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, listen, I backed him yesterday. I made a big mistake. I hold my hands up to everyone. I put Guptill in my fantasy team and I took Zazai out in the combined.
My God.
What was I doing? Anyway, there we go. I made a mistake. I hold my hands up. I'm big enough and old enough to accept when I've got it wrong. Guptill's had a really poor tournament, hasn't he? It's a strange one, really. You go back years and years ago, he was such a fantastic striker. One of the best in the world. You think of New Zealand playing on those small little grounds, smacking the ball over a leg side, hitting the ball down the ground. I don't want to say he's a shadow of his former self, but he certainly has struggled this tournament, which was disappointing for Karachi, obviously, because they brought him in as a kind of a massive signing in the replacement draft. He was one of the marquee players. Just didn't deliver. And then Karachi, they suffered from some of their overseas players not delivering.
And then you did talk about Zazai, the absolute Afghan sensation. Talk us about him. You must have faced him playing for Ireland. Absolutely destructive. And like you mentioned off air, looks pretty fit out there as well. Looks quite trim. And he seriously packs a punch. Those hoiks over square leg, they were landing way outside the stadium on those grass banks.
Yeah, he's a really clean striker of the ball. A natural hitter, you would say. Burst onto the scene 4, 5, 6 years ago even. Been around.
Been around.
People may not know much about him, but he has been around for a number of years. Lost his way massively. Lost his way out of the Afghanistan side. Those shots up over leg side, that's his bread and butter. If you have ball good pace and short very early to try and unsettle Zazai, but if you bowl medium pace or back of a length, he'll clobber you. He really will. And if you bowl spin, you got to get a bit of revs on it. You got to really give it a rip. Otherwise, he's got to hoik your leg side. And you mentioned it. We spoke off air. He looks fit. He looks strong. I reckon he's been working very hard back in.
Right then, Niall, you said Zazai had an outstanding game. Was a bit of a shadow pick there for the Zalmi. But another name that's delivered in the big game, another retro signing from fashionable from back in the day, was the big unit Mohammad Irfan, getting 3 wickets on the night for Zalmi. What an outstanding. We said Sohail Tanveer had a bit of a throwback performance. The big unit Burj Irfan as well coming through for the Zalmi as well. 3 wickets on the night.
Yeah, he bowled really well. And he looks to me to really enjoy bowling with Wahab Riaz and playing Wahab Riaz. So I think he gets a lot of confidence from playing with the great speedster Wahab. We spoke yesterday about him. He is a tricky customer. He's awkward. When he gets it right, he has got the ability to take early wickets. And again, yesterday proved absolutely decisive. Taking a couple early, probably his best bowling performance of the tournament, I would say. Reeling back the years, he's been around a long time as well. I remember when he burst onto the scene.
Absolutely. And let's take a look at the overall, you can say, underperformers in the two games then. Let's not get a bit too negative, but I do want your expert analysis on that. In my opinion, Shadab Khan taking 2 wickets in his first over, then came back and went for about 20 odd in his full quota. As a fan, I wasn't fully satisfied with that performance. I would have expected him to run through the side, get a couple of more wickets, and then, of course, with the bat, once again, he promoted himself up the order, took the responsibility, but came back with a blob. That was a very, very poor show. And that how does that set the tone for the team in a run chase?
Yeah, well, first of all, with the ball, I thought he actually bowled really well. Those 2 wickets are massive. He was getting a bit of assistance from the pitch, but Shadab Khan, he's not the kind of leg spinner that's going to run through a team. With all due respect, he's a good leg spinner. He's a useful leg spinner, but I don't think he's the kind of bowler that's going to run through a team like a Rashid Khan, for example. Actually, the return that he gave, I think, was pretty good. With the bat, he's batting quite high up the order there. He's for me, it's probably that position might be a little bit high. I'd rather see him come in a little bit lower. But what I do like, as a captain, he's saying, no, I'm going to take the responsibility for the side and try and get us in the position to win this game. So I don't mind it. Listen, T20 cricket is like that. Sometimes you go out, you get a duck, it happens. But I suppose his overall performances have been pretty good. And I think as a captain, we've seen that in previous editions. He's a good leader of men. I think the players follow him. As a captain, you need the players to follow you in your charge. So I don't mind. I'm happy with Shadab Khan. Obviously, a duck's not going to be ideal, but I thought he bowled quite nicely.
And of course, another big name for that, it's been delivering for Islamabad United, Asif Ali. On the night, big expectations from him, but just ran down the pitch and got stumped easy as you like by Imran Tahir. Very, very poor shot selection. And it looked like his mind was completely scrambled there, to be very frank.
Yeah, that was a miscalculation, you call it.
To put it nicely.
Yeah. It wasn't what was required at the time, especially against Imran Tahir. And we knew the ball was turning a bit. The pitch was giving a little bit of assistance. Sometimes you got to take your medicine as a batsman. Even in a T20 game, you have to just sometimes sit back and say, right, this is a crunch period of the game. We have to play. You have to box clever here. Be a little bit smart. Even if you take Imran Tahir for 6, 7 and over and don't give wickets, you're probably in a good position to launch later. But it was a poor dismissal. It's one of those you go back to the dressing room and you take your helmet off and you've got your head in your hands and you think, what have I done? And unfortunately for Asif Ali, he let the side down there.
Right then, Niall, we spoke about Islamabad United's woes with their big performers, not quite performing. Shadab Khan, Asif Ali. Let's look at Multan Sultans, though. Shan Masood getting out to Shadab Khan. Riley Rousseau, the very, very key player for them in the middle order, tweeted before the game, it's really hot. And that perhaps set the tone. And immediately came out and got a second ball duck against Shadab Khan. Beautiful leg spinner right thudding into his pads. And even Mohammad Rizwan, both of them getting ducks. So what do you think? Is there an issue with their form or it's just a blip on the scale?
Well, certainly not Mohammad Rizwan. I think he's in great form. So, when you're opening batting in T20, you can always get one early. You can get out early. That's acceptable. You have to accept that as a batsman in T20 cricket, sometimes you're going to get a good ball or give you a wicket away early. That's absolutely fine. No problem with Rizwan. Top class. I spoke yesterday about how good a player I think he is, and I think he's right up there, one of the best.
And let's look at, of course, Peshawar Zalmi and the Kings, who were the bit of the top of the flops, as they say in that game. Mohammad Amir, absolutely awful in this Abu Dhabi leg of the PSL 6. 1 wicket only in about, 5 or 6 games. And you have Wasim Akram as your team director. How does that even happen?
Well, I'm just wondering, was Wasim Akram, maybe he wants to get the boots on and go out and get bowling again. Listen, Mohammad Amir, it's the story that never gets old, really. The mercurial, talented left-arm 90-mile-an-hour bowler obviously had his difficult times and time away from the game, came back in, you know, to a huge fanfare, and you know, rightly so. He's a fantastic bowler, but his performances have been, you know, subpar. And you think for Karachi, when you pick your side and you pick your marquee players, the likes of
He's your
Baba,
platinum, yeah, especially he's your platinum player, highest paid player right there.
highest paid player, you know, you need him to lead the attack, like Wahab does for Zalmi. You know, you sign Wahab Riaz on the draft, you know what you're getting. He's going to get you 15, 20 wickets. He's going to be a great leader in the pack, and he'll bomb you a few over the boundary with the bat. So when you pick your platinum and these guys on huge money, they have to deliver. And I just wonder, there's lots of talk around Mohamed Amir, I just wonder, is that coming into the camp? Is it coming into his performances? You know, he's not playing for Pakistan, then he wants to play for Pakistan again. So there's always this hype and hysteria around Mohamed Amir. And I know Mohamed Amir, and he's a lovely fella. But at the moment, he just hasn't delivered for Karachi. So you know, that is one of the reasons they're not progressing.
And of course, one guy you did name, like we discussed earlier, Martin Guptill, 69 runs in 5 games. But Tishara Pereira did show up for them, so that was a welcome sign. Performed with the bat and got a few wickets in there as well. Unfortunately, dropped the catch that could have kept them in the game and take it to a super over. But sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, I guess, with Tishara Pereira.
Yeah, Bazid Khan, the great man Bazid Khan, he would have loved the super over, wouldn't he? He's always asking for the super over, Baz. But listen, TP Pereira is a fine all-rounder, has been for Sri Lanka for many years, should really still be playing for Sri Lanka, truth be told. When you look at the Sri Lanka side, you think Tishara Pereira is good enough to be a premier all-rounder in that side. Did they get enough value out of Pereira in the tournament? Probably not. You know, when they brought him in the replacement draft, there was, you know, he retired from international cricket, then he's signing in the PSL. It was a big coup. It really was a big coup. And I think people in the Karachi lineup thought, well, we've got a real gem here. This is a real added bonus, because we thought he would have been with the Sri Lanka side in the UK.
Right then, let's preview the big eliminator game tonight. Winner goes on to the final. It's Islamabad United, a wounded Islamabad United, taking on Peshawar Zalmi resurgent with a huge morale-boosting win. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Niall. Tell me who's going to win this game, straight up.
You love putting me on the spot, don't you? Look, I'm going to go for Islamabad United. You know, I went against them yesterday, and I backed Multan. Just, you know, something in the back of my mind thought Multan, but I just think Islamabad have played so well for such a long period here in Abu Dhabi that, yes, they had a blip yesterday, but I'm backing them to bounce back this evening. They're going to have to find someone else around Khawaja and around Munro to score runs. I know Munro missed out yesterday with a blob, but he's a good player and he's in fine form. Will they look at a Brandon King? Obviously a fine player, good stroke maker. He's had a couple of outings, one very nice innings. Will they bring the man from the Caribbean in? I think they might do that. But for Islamabad, they've played well the whole comp. They might have a look at the leggy, Fawad Ahmed. They might look to bring that bit of experience in. Just say, right, guys, we've had a bit of a blip. Okay, put that to bed. We've had a debrief. We've rectified what we've done wrong. We've realised what we've done well with Khawaja, etc. Can we give Shadab a bit of support with Fawad Ahmed? So I think there might be a couple of changes for Islamabad.
Okay, right. Then I'm going to put you on the spot and you have to go on the record. I need 2 key performers for both sides in each game. Islamabad United and Peshawar Zalmi.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit outside the box, really. I'm not going to go for an overseas player. It's easy. I could say, you know, Khawaja will go and do the business, but I'm going to go for the captain, Shadab Khan. I think he's where he bats in the order is probably a key position. Will he bat 5 or will he bat 6? So I'm going to say for the captain, Shadab Khan, to be an instrumental player, and I've got Hassan Ali. For the reason I mentioned previous, I think if he can strike a couple of early blows against the likes of Zazai and Cameron Akmal, Cameron's playing nicely, but I reckon Cameron's got a big performance. So I reckon Hassan Ali and Shadab Khan, 2 Pakistan players, are going to be the key performers for me.
And for the Yellow Storm, Peshawar Zalmi?
Well, listen, again, I could say Zazai, but how many times has Hazratullah Zazai scored 450s in 4 or 5 games? Consistency's never been a massive one for him. He's banged out 2 fantastic innings so far. So I'm not going to go for Zaza because I think Hassan might get him early. There we go, throwing it out there. So I'm going to say Cameron Akmal. So I've been a big fan of Cameron's for a long time. He's been a brilliant player in the PSL. You know, one of the best, if not the best, players in PSL history. Good gloveman, fine batsman. So I'm going to say Cameron's going to come to the fore just when it matters for the Yellow Storm. And then I'm going to go for Rutherford. I think Rutherford at the moment is playing a superb game plan. He's clean. He's hitting the ball cleanly. He's striking the ball well. He looks to have a very clear mind when he's at the crease. He knows exactly what he wants to do. Got his side over the line last night, just about. He'll be full of confidence.
There you go then. Okay, then we're gonna wrap up here quickly then, Niall O'Brien. I'm gonna ask you for the fantasy 11 of this Islamabad versus Zalmi clash. Give me your 11 quickly on the spot.
This is my favorite bit. Okay, I've got for Zaza in form up front. He's going to open the batting with Colin Munro. I've got Khawaja at 3, Iftikhar Ahmed at 4, Shoaib Malik at 5 for that experience through middle orders. Get his team over the line. Rutherford is going to play. Shadab Khan, as I've mentioned, is a key performer with his leggies and with his use of batting. And then I've got Wahab. I can't play without Wahab. You know, I love Wahab Ria, so he's in my side. I've got Hassan Ali, Mohammad Wasim, who's had a good competition, a really good performer. And then the giant, the gentle giant, Mohammad Irfan. That's my 11. I've got 5 from Zalmi. I've got 6 from Islamabad. And I've got 4 from the overseas market. But I've got Islamabad to win the match overall.
Brilliant analysis there from Niall, as always. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and
Pleasure.
had a fun-filled second episode. And we'll be back before the final, the big final, with another episode of Not Just Cricket. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4.